Our first dignitary to welcome you is Greg Principato, who is President of Airports Council International, North America. We call it ACI. ACI is the leading association of airports and airport-related businesses in North America. Greg has served in this important position since 2005. Greg, we look forward to your remarks.
Good morning. Thank you, Jack. Be the first person to call you Jack. Mayor Wharton, Congressman Cohen, Arnold Pearl, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners, Larry Cox, CEO of the Memphis-Shelby County Airport Authority. It's great to be here in your wonderful and historic city. Indeed, it's highly appropriate to have a worldwide conference such as this, one dedicated to the proposition that airports are engines of growth and commerce here in this capital of global air cargo. Jack, it's an honor to be here with you. Your provocative thoughts and ideas have spurred much needed discussion, debate, and most importantly, action. It's a special honor to be here with Fred Smith and Richard Anderson. Ask any group of 100 experts for the names of the 5 most important people in American business over the last half-century, and one name that would be on all those lists is Fred Smith, founder of FedEx. Richard Anderson is not only CEO of Delta Airlines, having successfully combined Delta and Northwest, he's also chairman of the Air Transport Association, so it's really good to be here with you today. The mayor and the congressman are among that breed of political leader who understand the importance of air service to a community's prospects for growth and have done all they could to promote that here in Memphis. Arnold and Larry do a great job here with the airport. They understand the importance of cargo, but they've also worked tirelessly to expand domestic and international air service for the community. They understand just how important price and service competition are to an airport's ultimate customers, the passengers and businesses in the community who need to move their people and products to destinations and markets wherever in the world they might be. One of the great things about this conference is that it brings together people from all over the globe who understand these basic truths. When I look around this room, I see some of the best and brightest our industry has to offer. Indeed, you'd be among the best and brightest any industry would have to offer. Everywhere you look in this room, forward-thinking visionaries who understand the importance of the airport to the economic vitality of cities and regions from all over the world. One of the eternal truths of history is the importance of transportation links to economic and political growth. So many major cities lie on rivers or oceans or other bodies of water, not because some planner long ago thought it would make a nice postcard someday, but because that was how people and goods were transported. Economic growth requires transportation links. Indeed, growth creates pressure for better, more improved links. And when we address those needs and provide those links, further growth is created, which begets more pressure and so on. You get the idea. All those cities that have grown and flourished across the centuries grew on trade provided by the large clipper ships and later boats powered by steam and other means. No one remembers who owned those boats, nor do we particularly care. What we do know is that those communities grew and flourished and prospered. The people there and the people who benefited by the trade and commerce created there saw their standards of living increase and their opportunities multiply. Their children and grandchildren did even better. And the reason that happened is because they made full use of their natural advantages. They built infrastructure and worked to connect themselves to the destinations for their people and the markets for their goods. That's really what this Airport Cities Conference and concept are all about. How do we best take advantage of the airport economic engine to promote growth, prosperity, and a bright future for all of our people? One of the great untold stories in economic history is the role airports have played in generating economic growth and opportunity. It was airports that not only pushed for airlines to be deregulated, but led the way in creating the infrastructure and the opportunity to bring low-fare service to more and more regions, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Having been personally involved in the efforts to open restrictive air service agreements with Canada and Japan, I know it was airports that led the push for open skies and an end to the old restrictive Bermuda II style agreement, often in the face of opposition from certain airlines along the way. I can tell you for certain that the 1995 U.S.-Canada agreement and the 1998 U.S.-Japan agreement would not have occurred without a strong push from the airport community. Just as with the great shipping cities that invested and built and created economic opportunity and trade throughout history, it is the airport city of today that leads the way to the benefit of our citizens, our children, and our grandchildren. As I travel the world and see what's being done across the globe, I'm struck and heartened by the extent to which the imperative of taking full advantage of the airport economic engine is accepted wisdom in so many places. Governments all over the world are working to create conditions for meaningful investments in aviation infrastructure. Airlines in many parts of the world engage in this process as partners, working with airport officials because they know that investment in airport infrastructure is critical to their being able to profitably perform their function in this global economic puzzle. Air transportation in such regions as Asia and the Pacific, Latin America, and perhaps most interestingly, the Middle East, is growing rapidly as governments, airports, and airlines come together around a common understanding that investment in air transportation infrastructure is critical to the growth of their regions and the prosperity of their people. What I see is just astounding, but there is one glaring exception to this trend right here in the United States of America. Rather than understand the need to invest in infrastructure, the U.S. government actually stands in the way of airports and local communities who want and need to finance aviation infrastructure. Yes, for those of you here from other parts of the world, you heard that right. The United States government actually stands in the way of local communities and airports financing infrastructure. It's actually illegal in the United States to finance infrastructure by charging a user fee above a very small amount, the very method used in so much of the world. It's illegal because of a law passed 38 years ago, back when the U.S. federal government told the airlines where they could fly and where they couldn't and what they could charge. But surely, you might ask, don't the airlines join with the airports to complain about this and get it overturned? After all, airlines need this infrastructure to be able to move people and goods to destinations and markets. After all, airlines all over the world have supported the move to user fees and away from embedding those costs into rates and charges. I know the International Air Transport Association has been supportive of such fees around the world, not only because it is the most efficient way to finance infrastructure, but also because it is the most cost-effective scheme for the airlines themselves. It's no surprise to the Americans in the audience, but it may be to many of the rest of you, that not only have the airlines not joined with the airports to change this restriction, they've actively opposed efforts to get this changed. They do this even though their counterparts around the world have shown this is the way to go, even though I would argue it goes against their own interests, not just long-term, but short-term as well. Why would they do that? I have only one answer that makes sense. The airlines want to control airports and limit competition. I mentioned that the law preventing airports from financing infrastructure with user fees dates back to the days of government regulation of airline routes and fares in the United States. A regime the United States shook off in 1978, and much of the rest of the world has followed, to the great benefit of passengers and shippers everywhere. Before 1978, airlines didn't necessarily control where they flew or what they charged, but they did control a lot of the activity at the airports they used. And they had almost no competition. At the time airline deregulation was passed in the United States, only 25% of all city pair routes had more than one carrier on the route.